In the vast and shadowy pantheon of creatures that haunt human nightmares, few are as enigmatic and terrifying as the Creeper. His essence transcends mortal understanding, plunging into the depths of a celestial betrayal that echoes through millennia. This is the saga of a fallen angel, a being of light who, in an act of supreme treachery, turned his back on his creator and, even more shocking, on the Lord of Darkness himself, Lucifer. The unfolding story isn't merely that of a relentless predator, but of an entity condemned to an existence of eternal hunting, governed by an infernal cycle of hunger and renewal. Every 23 years of hibernation, for 23 days of frenzied activity, and for 23 centuries, he leaves a trail of terror and despair wherever he goes. Brace yourself to unravel the true nature of the Creeper, a renegade angel whose pact with darkness condemned him to a never-ending quest for souls, feeding not just on flesh, but on the very essence of life, fear. His journey began long before humanity even dreamed of existing, in a time when the heavens were a stage for intrigues and ambitions that would culminate in the greatest of rebellions. He, who was once among the most beautiful and powerful angels, chose a path of self-exile and condemnation, a path that would lead him to become the hunter we know today. His story is a dark reminder that darkness can emerge even in the most luminous places, and that betrayal, once consummated, can shape a destiny of horror for ages to come. In this video, we'll dive deep into the layers of his existence, exploring his celestial origin, the nature of his betrayal, the purpose of his hunt, and the relentless cycle that governs him, revealing the anatomy of a terror that transcends time and space. Before becoming the Creeper, this entity was a being of light, an angel of great power and beauty, part of the celestial host that served God. His original name, whispered only in tones of lamentation by the few angels who still remember him, was erased from the celestial annals, replaced by a sepulchral silence. He wasn't a mere cherub or seraphim. He possessed a strategic intelligence and capacity for manipulation that set him apart, a gift that, ironically, would be his downfall. Ambition and discord infiltrated the celestial realms, culminating in the Great Rebellion led by Lucifer, the Morning Star. The Creeper, in his angelic form, wasn't a mere follower, but a cunning strategist, one of the silent architects of the revolt, whispering doubts and promises of power to his celestial brothers. He aligned himself with Lucifer, seduced not only by the promise of a new order, but by the opportunity to ascend to a power that not even paradise could offer. His loyalty, however, was a facade, a web of deceptions woven with the mastery of a being who knew the weaknesses of both light and darkness. He delighted in sowing discord, in observing the disintegration of divine order, believing that in chaos he would find his true ascension. At the climax of the Celestial War, when the heavens were torn apart by the clash between divine hosts and rebel legions, the Creeper executed the most vile and unexpected act of betrayal. He not only abandoned Lucifer's cause, but, in a calculated move of self-preservation and opportunism, revealed vital secrets of demonic strategies, weakening the fallen legions at a critical moment. This act of treachery wasn't motivated by a return to divine grace, but by a selfish desire to avoid the punishment that would befall the fallen angels and to position himself above any loyalty. He sought a middle path, an escape from eternal damnation in hell, but also from celestial submission, believing himself superior to both destinies. As a result of his double betrayal, the Creeper was cursed by both sides. God, in his relentless justice, did not forgive him for his rebellion and duplicity, and Lucifer, in his fury, condemned him to an existence of perpetual torment, but without the consolation of infernal company. He wasn't banished to hell with Lucifer and his followers, nor was he forgiven and reintegrated into paradise. Instead, he was condemned to a liminal existence, trapped between realms, forced to wander the earth in a cycle of hunger and renewal. His angelic form was distorted, his wings of light transformed into dark leathery membranes, his beauty replaced by a grotesque appearance that reflects the corruption of his soul and the duplicity of his heart. The curse bound him to a cycle of 23 years, during which he hibernates in a state of petrification, and 23 days of relentless hunting, a period in which he must feed to sustain his accursed existence. This isn't a hunt for mere survival, but a quest for souls, the vital essence he absorbs to prolong his agony and power. This act of cowardice and opportunism sealed his fate, transforming him into a predator that feeds on humanity, a dark reminder of the fall of an angel who found redemption on neither side of the celestial war. The curse that transformed the traitorous angel into the Creeper condemned him to an existence of perpetual hunting, driven by the cycle of 23 years of deep hibernation, followed by 23 days of frenzied activity. During these days, the Creeper emerges from his petrified sleep, an awakening that shakes the very earth, driven by an insatiable hunger that manifests through the vital essence residing in human organs. He isn't a random butcher. His hunt is a macabre symphony of precision and cruelty, almost a profane ritual. Guided by heightened supernatural senses, he detects fear, a scent that attracts him to his prey with irresistible force. His eyes, once portals to celestial light and now yellowish, malignant orbs, see the energetic auras of humans, revealing which organs contain the vitality he seeks for his regeneration and the prolongation of his accursed existence. Each body part he consumes: an eye to see hidden truths, a lung to breathe the air of despair, a heart to feel the pulse of the life he steals. Isn't just physically absorbed, but also infused with the memory, intelligence, and very essence of the victim. This fusion makes him stronger, more cunning, and more adaptable with each cycle. A being in constant evolution, a living compendium of the souls he has devoured. This incorporation of souls is what sustains him for 23 centuries, allowing him to transcend mortality and continue his accursed existence. His truck, his biomechanical and horrifying extension, isn't just a vehicle, but a mobile torture laboratory and a tool of psychological terror. He uses it to sow panic, to hunt his victims with brutal efficiency, maximizing fear, for it's in terror that the essence of the soul manifests most powerfully, most savory for his insatiable hunger. With each cycle, the creeper doesn't just recover from his wounds and his long hibernation, but evolves. He incorporates the best genetic and spiritual characteristics of his victims, becoming a chimera of horror, a grotesque fusion of fallen angel and the souls he has devoured. His intelligence is strategic. He plans ambushes with calculating coldness, manipulating his prey with a cunning that borders on genius, not by animal instinct, but by a mind shaped by millennia of hunting and the dark wisdom acquired from his prey. The precision of his hunt, the way he arranges bodies in macabre patterns and preserves certain organs in his lair, suggests a connection to ancient rituals, a perversion of his original angelic nature, now dedicated to a dark and profane purpose. He is the embodiment of betrayal and eternal hunger, a being condemned to an existence of relentless pursuit, reminding us that not all fallen angels found their place in hell. The creeper's anatomy is a testament to his hybrid nature and the curse that transformed him. His skin isn't merely a covering, but a scaly armor, resistant to punctures, with a coloration that blends with darkness and earth, allowing him to camouflage in his hunting environment. His wings, once ethereal and luminous, are now leathery membranes, similar to those of a bat, but with a disproportional wingspan that gives him terrifying aerial agility. They aren't just for flight, they're extensions of his perception, capable of sensing air currents and the vibrations of fear emanating from his prey. His claws, retractable and sharp as razors, are composed of a chitinous material, harder than steel, capable of piercing metal and flesh with equal ease. His teeth, arranged in 3 rows like those of a shark, are constantly replaced, ensuring his bite is always lethal. The cape he wears, more than an adornment, seems to be an organic extension of his body, an additional sensory organ that amplifies his ability to detect fear and locate his victims. Internally, his physiology defies all known laws of biology. He possesses a dual respiratory system, with a 3rd nostril specialized in detecting chemical compounds associated with human fear. His digestive system is selective, processing only the organs that contain the vital essence he seeks. Most impressive is his mechanism of accelerated cellular regeneration. When consuming an organ, he doesn't just digest it, but incorporates the DNA and cellular properties of that organ into his own body, explaining his search for specific victims and his continuous evolution. His brain, multilocular and protected by a dense bone box, allows him to continue functioning even after severe damage. His blood, dark green and with accelerated coagulating properties, contains organic nanostructures that facilitate regeneration. His senses are hyper-developed, a 3-dimensional sense of smell that detects fear, multispectral vision that sees in infrared and ultraviolet, and selective hearing focused on sounds associated with human terror. Beyond physical senses, he demonstrates psychic perception, knowing the names of his victims and detecting when he's being observed, an echo of his former angelic nature, now perverted for the hunt. His biological arsenal is as horrifying as it is effective. Bone shurikens extracted from his own skeleton, a viscous adhesive fluid that immobilizes victims, and venomous darts with paralyzing neurotoxins, ensuring his prey remains conscious to savor fear before the final slaughter. The ability to use parts of the victim's body as offensive extensions of his own body is the most terrible of his weapons, a testimony to his adaptation and cruelty. The evolution of the creeper over the centuries is remarkable. He doesn't just recover, but improves with each cycle, incorporating the best genetic characteristics of his victims. Today's creeper is a more lethal and cunning version of his original form, a predator that learns and adapts, operating with a calculating and sadistic mind. The creeper's presence on Earth isn't limited to isolated cycles. His influence extends through millennia, weaving into the tapestry of human history in subtle and terrifying ways. Ancient legends, forgotten myths, and tales of winged creatures that feed on flesh and soul may be distorted echoes of his appearances. In pre-Columbian civilizations, there are indications of human sacrifice rituals that involve the removal of specific organs, practices that, in retrospect, could have been a way to appease or even venerate the creeper, seen as a dark divinity or a dragon god. The legend of the Uctina, the horned serpent of Native American traditions, also intertwines with his figure, suggesting a malignant presence that permeates different cultures. The mysterious disappearance of the Roanoke colonists in 1590, a historical enigma that defies explanation, could be attributed to his hunt, an event that fits perfectly into his feeding cycle. And, even more disturbingly, the inspiration behind the most impactful opening scenes of the first film is a dark reminder of the thin line between fiction and reality. Director Victor Salva based the opening of Jeepers Creepers on a real murder case and body disposal in Michigan. The murder of Marilyn Depew in 1990 by her ex-husband, Dennis Depew, and the testimony of a couple who saw him disposing of a bloody sheet echo frighteningly in the scenes of Trish and Derry. This connection to real horror adds an extra layer of chills, transforming what could be just a fantasy into a nightmare that dangerously approaches the real world. With each era, the creeper adapts, his tactics evolve, but his essence remains the same, a relentless predator who delights in fear and hopelessness. He isn't just a monster, but a catalyst for dark events, a whisper in the collective unconscious that manifests in nightmares and legends. His presence is a constant reminder of the fragility of human life and the existence of horrors that transcend scientific understanding. He is the shadow that lurks on deserted roads, the terror that hides in plain sight, a predator that adapts, evolves, and persists, driven by a hunger that transcends human understanding. The infamous truck of the creeper isn't a mere transport vehicle. It's a horrifying extension of his own being, a biomechanical tool of terror and a mobile torture laboratory. The symbiosis between the creeper and his truck is so deep that it borders on the supernatural. There are indications of a neural connection where the vehicle responds to his mental commands, as if it were a part of his own body. Analyses of frames from the films reveal subtle organic filaments connecting him to the truck, suggesting a profound symbiosis. The vehicle isn't just a means of transport, but a mobile torture laboratory and a tool of psychological terror, maximizing fear for his insatiable hunger. He uses it to sow panic, to hunt his victims with brutal efficiency. The spear that emerges from its exhaust is a final touch of terror, a warning that, once you're in his sights, there's no escape. The psychological impact of the creeper on his victims and those who survive his fury is a crucial element that elevates his status from monster to existential terror. He doesn't just content himself with reaping lives. He delights in breaking the minds of his prey, transforming hope into despair and sanity into madness. The induction of fear and the manipulation of dreams, though limited, are powerful tools in his arsenal. Imagine having your dreams invaded by visions of the creeper, his presence infiltrating your mind, distorting reality, and planting seeds of paranoia. This tactic doesn't just facilitate his hunt, as terrified victims are easier to manipulate, but also serves as a cruel psychological game, where he delights in suffering even before delivering the final blow. The House of Pain isn't just a physical location of horror, but a reflection of the mental torture he inflicts, a museum of broken souls and profaned bodies. The creeper, the angel who betrayed Lucifer and now hunts souls, is more than a creature of horror. He is an archetype of primordial terror, a dark reminder of the corruption that can emerge even in the highest spheres. His existence is a paradox, a celestial being transformed into an infernal predator, a hunter who feeds on life to sustain his own non-life. The cycle of 23 years of hibernation and 23 days of hunting isn't just a biological peculiarity, but an intrinsic manifestation of his curse, a cosmic clock that dictates his hunger and his renewal. Each soul he consumes, each organ he incorporates, doesn't just strengthen him physically, but also enriches him with the wisdom, memories, and abilities of his victims, making him a being of growing intelligence and cunning, an amalgam of horrors and knowledge accumulated over millennia. He isn't a monster that acts by blind instinct. His hunt is calculated, his cruelty is deliberate, and his pleasure in inflicting fear is an extension of his corrupted nature, a distorted echo of his former glory. The legacy of the creeper isn't just the trail of mutilated bodies and the terror he leaves behind, but the very idea that betrayal can have eternal consequences, that the pursuit of power and the rejection of loyalty can lead to an existence of perpetual condemnation, to a hunger that will never be satiated. He is the embodiment of evil that hides in plain sight, a predator that adapts, evolves, and persists, driven by a hunger that transcends human understanding, both physical and spiritual. His story is a cautionary tale, an echo of the dangers of unbridled ambition and treachery, and a reminder that, even in the darkest corners of existence, light can be distorted into something unrecognizable. The creeper continues his hunt, a ghost of the celestial past, a herald of present terror and a promise of future horror, as the cycle unfolds, relentless and eternal.